are called gyri. The mountains are called gyri. Each of them are gyrus. The dips, the valleys, are called sulci, or each of those is the solstice. Well, the spinal cord has that also. It's got some dips and some. Do what now?
Sounds like food.
Oh, it's got some. Now it's lunchtime in it. Hannibal Lecter comes to mind. My son sent me an email, or a phone message last night. He was looking at a pistol up in North Arkansas, and he sent me this. He said, "As your mom always said, you ought to try new things." Terrible. His med school buddy, or excuse me, his pharmacy school buddies, when they get in on our conversations on Facebook, we have a ball. Okay. But the spinal cord looks something like this in cross section, but very similar continuation. It's got some gyri and some sulci on it. Now the front of it's a little different. The front's got a big groove in the middle. This warrants being called something more special than a solstice. Let's call it a fissure. Fissure's a pretty good hole in it, pretty good gap. I know we didn't like the way that it was worded on the bone thing that day or whatever. If we have a fissure out west, out in New Mexico, where we hit a fissure, that means you're probably not going to get across it in a four-wheeler. It's pretty deep crack or gap that we're not going to get through. That is on the front. That's one way you can tell which way's front and back. If you don't tell which way's front and back, you're going to miss a bunch of stuff. Okay? So you got to remember. So I look and see, and that thing, I've got a deep fissure. Now, the terminology is a little redundant in my opinion. It is called the anterior median fissure. Is that right?
I hate to ask you this, but what is that again?
That's a deep gap that goes up.
What is that? That's the spinal cord?
Well,
That's the...
Yeah, the whole thing is cross section of the spinal cord. We have a fissure right here. We have a fissure right here. We have a fissure right here.
My brain went outside
Yes.
for a while.
I was trying to ask you, but you went too fast.
Okay.
Can you say it again about how you can tell it's the right side, or you're gonna miss a bunch of questions?
Okay, the deep gap is on the front.
Okay.
So I know this is anterior median fissure. Anterior and median, that's a little redundant because it's in the middle. It's the only big thing in the middle. So if it's anterior, it has to be median because that's the only thing in the middle. Does that make sense? So I say it's a little redundant. So that's the anterior median fissure. On the back, we have the posterior median sulcus. And it actually goes all the way through. I think we eliminated septum off the list. If we did not, we meant to, because the book that you've got does not have the septum. The one, okay, we've eliminated it. There's actually like a membrane that goes down in here and divides the sides of this. So that's one way you can tell front from back. The other way is the butterfly is upside down. The gray matter is upside down. It's like the tail, the bottom part of the butterfly is pointing up. Now, these did not last as long as we hoped they would last. This is the nerve that goes on one of these. It don't match up particularly with this one, but it goes on there like that. The other day in lecture, we talked about anterior nerves and ventral, and posterior nerves. We called them afferent and efferent. Okay, efferent goes away from the spinal cord. Afferent goes to the spinal cord. Okay, the way your spinal cord picks up signals from the body is through the backside. So this nerve here, right here, is the afferent or dorsal root. This bulge right here is called a ganglion. You notice there's not one on the front. So this bulge is on the back. So there's several ways you can tell front from back. That's the first question. Don't say, "Oh yeah, I know this real easy," and make a simple mistake, and then now you got it wrong. That's all I'm going to tell you. We have to count and put an X on them every time. So the dorsal root ganglion is on the dorsal root. This is an afferent nerve, sensory nerve. Then this would be the anterior root or anterior nerve. This is an efferent or motor nerve. It's going to go off to muscles and joints and whatever things to tell stuff to move. So signal comes in, signal goes out. Remember I told you the other day it only goes one way. We said afferent comes in and efferent goes out. Now the other things that you would notice about the spinal cord is that there's obviously a difference in the color. That has to do with what part of the nerves are actually showing. The other day we mentioned myelin. The myelin sheath. So there'd be a color variation for some things, but typically we say this is gray matter and this is white matter. You know, there's a joke about, well, you're not using your gray matter, are you, or something. You know, there's always some old jokes about that. Well, the white matter is divided kinda into three groups on each side. These things are columns, or they're called funiculi. Funiculus would be singular. So this one would be the posterior funiculus. This one would be the lateral funiculus. This one down here would be the anterior funiculus. Gray matter is the same way, except we don't use the term funiculi. We say there are horns of gray matter. You have a posterior horn, you have a lateral horn, and then you have a ventral horn. Now, granted, it's not as clear in the distinction here as it is back here. So obviously, this is very posterior, and this would be anterior, and so, you know, on the side, the lateral horn would be something like that. The gray matter of this side of the butterfly is connected to the gray matter of the other side of the butterfly by a commissure, called the gray commissure. Commissure is kind of a narrow connection, kind of like an isthmus. It's really what it is. You know, thyroid, we call it an isthmus on the thyroid, that little piece in the middle that bridges both sides. In the middle is a hole. That hole is called the central canal. So we've got several parts there. The brain and the spinal cord are both wrapped with some protective layers. These layers are called meninges. The very outside layer, the tough one, is called the dura mater. What does dura mean? Dura, yeah, durable, yeah, okay. What does mater mean?
The car from Cars.
She's got an advantage on us. A while ago, Evelyn, in my other class, I was trying not to look at her. I said, what does mater mean? Mother, yeah. Yeah. You know, brother, where art thou? He kept saying, I'm the pater familias, the family father. In some cultures, it's the mater familias. It's grandma that runs the family. Mater, mother. Tough mother. That's what it's called. The dura mater. I don't know about that hello mother, hello father. Play off of that. So you have a dura mater on the outside. That's kind of like this, I don't know, the old red radiator hose. You know, the old tough rubber layer was on the outside. That's what that reminds me. A while ago, they remembered you know, you had the old red rubber hoses that you fixed back on your car and whatever, like that. That's what this one kind of looks like. The one in the middle, right underneath the dura mater, is called the arachnoid. Really the arachnoid mater, but most of the time we just say the arachnoid. And the reason it's called the arachnoid is because if you look underneath it all the way around, it's got a network of like little fibers that go through it that kind of look like a spider web. So arachnoid, spider-like in it. The inside one, if you had a dura mater, you might also have a pia mater. Pia means, what's pia mean? Sort of. In music, we would say piano. Soft, delicate. It's really soft. Piano, right? Yeah. Don't you just love it when the Latin all comes together? And that's education, folks. Can't anybody take that away from you. You might or might not remember the horns of your gray matter, but today, I mean, on Sunday, you'll see in a songbook and it'll say piano, and that means sing soft. It don't mean bellow it out, mezzo forte, or forte forte, or some of those other things. But the pia mater is the real delicate one on the inside. It is the only one that actually, if you'll notice where the sulci and the funiculi are at, it's the only one that actually goes down into the little nooks and crannies of the spinal cord. If you have meningitis, then you have an inflammation or an infection in there. When we do a spinal tap or a spinal puncture, a lumbar puncture, all those are synonymous. We would typically come down here, say, to L3, L4 to do the spinal tap. The reason we would do that is because the spinal cord is going to end up here about L1. Now, wait a minute, you said, don't you have nerves? Yes, but what happens is the nerves come off and then they all go down through the central canal, through the central foramen, in these other vertebrae, and then go down to your legs and all that. The theory is, the idea is, well, it's, you know, if we hit the spinal cord, that could be bad. Let's go down here. If we hit a nerve, that might not be so bad. So we'll go down here and insert a needle. We'll pull out a little bit of fluid. We'll take that back and look at it in laboratory, culture it in laboratory, and see what's in it. The meningitis case from the from the back steroids. You know, it was just one of those crazy fungi that
It was rare.
normally wouldn't bother us, wouldn't cause us any problem, but if you're injecting it directly into there, yeah, if you have an epidural,
It has like a deep brain stroke.
yeah, if you have an epidural, okay, you're going in just on the outside
Those are
of the
scary.
duramater, and you are putting that nerve numbing anesthetic right on the surface of that, and hopefully there's enough of it, we'll put enough in there.
Why do they ask you when they put it in, tell me which side it's hurting on?
They're I don't know, they're trying to figure out where to go with it, yeah.
Ooh,
Sometimes they
Scary.
stick you 2 or 3 times or whatever the case may be. Camille tells this horror story. She was trying to have her first child, and now that I've been around a little bit, you know, there's stuff that people tell you. You know, Ryan can tell you stories all day long, and it's like, okay, yeah. And then after you get to know Ryan and Ryan's family, and it all makes sense, and it all comes together. Well, she and I have done that with each other. After I've been around, I'm like, yeah, you were kind of on